log fence separating our home from the neighbors next door. We lived at the top of a hill, and we could view all the neighbors' backyards from ours. A few older boys came into our yard to check out what was going on down the hill. With only a vague notion of who they were, I heard one of them say, "Somebody's mom dropped dead in the LaRosa's yard." I was both a spectator and a participant in this drama, which I suppose set the pattern for the rest of my life. My mother had a damaged heart from a childhood bout of rheumatic fever, and at 20 was warned never to have children. Instead, she had 3, my 2 older sisters, Margaret and Betsy, and me. Many years later, Margaret told me that earlier that day, as she was going upstairs, Mommy had suddenly pulled her aside and, apropos of nothing, said in a voice that seemed almost angry in its urgency, "Margaret, if anything should happen to me, you must promise that you'll be best friends with your brother. You have to take care of him." Hours later, the sun was now beginning to disappear. Daddy came home and told us, "Mommy's dead." She'd had a heart attack in LaRosa's backyard and died on the spot. It was all over before the ambulance even arrived. Margaret and Betsy were sobbing and clinging to Daddy. I didn't cry. I watched the characters in the movie. Daddy pulled me over to him and wrapped his arms around all of us. Crushed in that tight embrace, I wondered, what happens to us now? Was that the first time I came up with that question? It's what I wonder after any moment of tragedy or joy. An opening night, and a rave review is read aloud. Everyone cheers and embraces each other with abandon. I stand apart, watching the others, and silently wondering, what happens to us now? A few days later, alone in my parents' bedroom with my mother's older sister, Lil, I observed my aunt performing the grim task of choosing a dress for my mother to be cremated in. With her suburban lifestyle, Mommy was almost always in slacks and shorts and sweaters. My father, proud of her classic beauty, once told me that in a room full of beautiful women, my mother could stand out in just a simple skirt and white blouse. I sat on the bed and watched Aunt Lil go through Mommy's closet. She took out several dresses and laid them on the bed. One was a gray and black floral chiffon cocktail dress with a full skirt, clearly the most appropriate choice. Toward the back of the closet, Aunt Lil came across the poplin jacket that my mother had enjoyed wearing with dungarees when the fall weather grew chilly. Could almost have been a boy's jacket. Aunt Lil finally spoke. "You should have this to remember Mommy. She loved you so much. I'm going to take it home with me to New York, where it will be safe, and will always be there for you." She kept the jacket in a storage box underneath her bed, easily accessible, and over the next few years, every so often I would take it out and hold it close to my nose, trying to keep my mother's memory alive as she was hurled backwards into the mist of the past. Red-Headed Woman. The same year as my mother's death, I attended my first professional production, and at its center was an extraordinary Titian-tressed diva whose image would be forever imprinted in my creative consciousness. My father took me to the old Metropolitan Opera House in New York City to hear the celebrated Australian coloratura, Joan Sutherland, sing the role of Amina in Bellini's La Sonnambula. Opera was my father's lifelong passion. Daddy possessed a rich baritone, but lacked the gargantuan drive, discipline, and exceptional talent essential to a career on the operatic stage. He had to settle for selling opera recordings at his music store in Yonkers and playing roles in summer stock and community theater. Daddy performed occasionally with the Westchester Opera Guild, and their production of La Traviata the previous spring made a huge impression on me, particularly the soprano playing the tragic Violetta. After the performance, I was taken backstage where my father introduced me to the principals and the cast. The romantic doomed courtesan Violetta was revealed to be a dowdy suburban music teacher. Not in the least disappointed, I was fascinated that she could be so utterly transformed under the stage lights. Perhaps then, a young boy from Hartsdale could be transformed into Holly Golightly from Breakfast at Tiffany's, which my father had recently taken us to see at the RKO Proctor's.